most of the time.
Oh, okay. I did see Cam and his boyfriend. I think I just need to, I'm sure we'll see each other again though, eventually.
Are you
I'm
going to
just
the
in
class
car.
on Monday?
Yeah. No, are you going to the class on Monday?
Oh, the business planning clinic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I went to the one on the 14th already.
Okay, we're going to that.
How was it? Yeah.
It was good. It was at the Hilton. Was it the Hilton? It was one of those hotels. No, the Marriott. It was at the Marriott in Beverly Hills.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
like got us lunch and stuff. But I kind of wish I would have done the one tomorrow because I had to take the day
Yeah.
off work.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Michelle and I are gonna do the one tomorrow, Monday. Yes. So, well, I think it'll be useful. Joey's teaching it. Did he teach the one at Marriott as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
that one's in the office, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, Carly's here? Or no?
That's just
I don't know.
KW Lushmont Health.
I'm just
yeah.
talking. I'll shut up now. I'm just gonna wait for Rob, I guess.
Hey guys, sorry it took a moment for me to log in here. Rob should be here any moment. He will be teaching the marketing class today.
Perfect.
Thanks, Carly.
How's everyone feeling today?
I feel great. I didn't drink though yesterday, so
I know she was so good. Unlike me, I think I did about 4 or 5 cocktails. They were good.
Yeah. I'm struggling, but we're here. We made it.
We did it. We made it. I'm on the way to the dentist, so I'm in the car. So
Oh, gotcha,
I'm gonna,
gotcha.
yeah. It'll give
And
me something really great to focus
He's
on.
here. He's here.
Yay! Okay.
Yay, I'm here. Okay.
We made it. We
Guys, there
did
was a
it.
problem with the link, but I'm here. So here we go. I am going to breeze through this stuff because I am taking my mother to her eye appointment today right after this. So I want to make sure I'm obviously there for that. But I love this subject, so I can breeze through it pretty quick because I have a lot to say. So we're here for Ignite. And I think, normally Carly has me doing where I can control the PowerPoint. So let me do that. Just 1 second. It makes it so much easier. By the way, those of you who I saw last night, that was really a lot of fun. So yay.
we had a lot of fun too.
It was great
It was
seeing.
nice to see you too.
Yeah, it's also, the one thing, like I mentioned to people all the time, is also sometimes just knowing how tall they really are is.
That's so true.
Even when I brought my husband last night, some people, that was the first time they met him in person, and everybody's like, wow, you're much taller than we thought.
Yeah.
By the way, those are great events to take selfies at and use that for social media marketing. While I'm waiting for my PowerPoint to open up, I do that kind of stuff all the time. I had a great time, blah, blah, blah. It's getting you noticed. It's getting you front of mind. That's going to be one of the key things that will make a big difference. Okay, let me get the slideshow up and running. Start. Okay, and then I'm supposed to share, and here we go. It's a Christmas miracle. Okay, so here we go. Now, the thing that, every day, some of this stuff you've heard now multiple times, what you focus on your business is on a daily basis, you want to focus on lead generation and running your business. And that could be, you know, a number of things involved in that. And they have the list there. I do want to let you know that some people in this business, it gets lopsided. Don't ever think every day is going to be balanced, because it cannot be sometimes. So for me, like a big part of my lead generation, because I'm a networking referral type agent, is my Christmas card list. I have now, it's hitting close to 300 people on my Christmas card list. And, and in my Christmas card list, I'll show you what I put in there. But part of that is it sets me up for the next year, because now I've sent, and it's not automated. I'm going to just swear because, hey, it's, yeah. So it's just not automated shit. It is like, no, inside I handwrite their name and I sign it. And sometimes, depending on who it is, that's it. Other times I put, hey, I hope this is your best holiday ever. I hope this is your best New Year ever, whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'll send out New Year's cards instead too. It just doesn't matter. But all that being said, I make that part personal. Now the outside is, I have labels, and my labels are cute because I have a little Snoopy that's in a Santa suit. So it is cute, you know, and next to everybody's name. Same thing with the return address label. I print those all myself. But you know, during this time of year, people are very forgiving of labels on cards. They get that. So that's okay. And they don't keep those. What they pay attention to is writing inside. So I make sure that's personal. That's part of my lead generation. So it's a bit lopsided for me. I mean, I literally went to the post office the other day and I dropped off 180 of these things. And, you know, she's like, oh, and I go, oh no, that's half. The other half's coming soon. And she was like, oh my gosh. But that means I'm spending a lot of time doing that. And currently I don't have any listings. So I'm not marketing the listings. I have some buyers and I'm sending buyers information and keeping in touch with them. But right now they're super busy and they're not really actively looking for something. So this is a time where it's a little bit lopsided. Other times it's the other way around. But you don't want to lose focus on making sure you're doing both. You're growing your business and you're running your business. That's the key principle here. So don't make this a bullet point list of, oh my God, I got to do every single one of these things every day and make sure it's in order, because that's not how life is. But there's times that it's going to be where you make sure they're both being done. And there are some days you will be doing both, and yay when you have those days, and those days work out well. But other times, there's going to be times where, you know, you may be doing one and maybe doing another. It's like remodeling a house. You may be not remodeling the whole house at a time. You're doing the kitchen. Now the kitchen's a mess and the focus is all on the kitchen, you know, and so the roses outside look like hell. Okay, that's fine, because eventually you'll get back to the roses. That's what I'm saying here. And that's a principle to follow. Same thing, there's marketing versus prospecting. And we've talked about this a little bit before. When you're looking at here, and I do love the way, and I'm truth on the table here. Overall, I think the Keller Williams stuff is great, and I'm not bullshitting there. I really, when I first came to KW, I literally said to the person who brought me to KW and to Joey, why didn't anybody show me this stuff before? In fact, there's a website called Breakthrough Broker, and I happened to download what they wanted to introduce. Like if you're a brand new agent, here's all the stuff they want to introduce you for. They gave you 5 key books to read, and 3 of them are from Keller Williams. And that's out of all the brokerages. And the 2 other books are not from another brokerage. So it shows you, like, really, this stuff is really on the mark. But if there's something that doesn't fit us, I'll let you know. But this is something that really fits us well. First is you're looking at marketing, and that's what we're focusing on today. Marketing tends to be passive. You know, marketing is one of those things, you're not actively calling somebody. I'm not calling Renee and I'm not saying, hey, Renee, how are you doing today? You know, what's going on? How's the family been? You know, that's proactive. That's also time intensive. And that's also the time where it can also have immediate results. You know, as you can see on that list there, that's where I'm calling her up. Hey, blah, 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 blah. And that's when it'd be like, hey, you know what? We're actually want to switch school districts. So we want to move. Probably, you know, it's in school districts, I'll just bring this up, you know, so probably we may want to start looking towards the end of the school year, because we know it'll take a while to move and get settled in. And we really want to do it before the summer hits big time. And so can we talk about that after the holidays? Yeah, that's That's part of prospecting, happening right now. The marketing side can be time intensive. That's where it could be like, hey, let's get together for coffee. The marketing side, I just mentioned that it could be money intensive. That's where when sometimes you see like, oh, people are spending a ton of money doing all this marketing stuff. They're spending money on, and let me show you a bad example, on USB drives. This was a hot ticket about 15 years ago. It's like, oh, people are spending money on this. That stuff is money intensive, and then, and it's also passive. There's nothing active about it, okay, well, there's their name, there's their info. And the idea is, both ideas is you want to be front of mind. You want to be that person that, hey, when they're ready to do anything in real estate, referral, recommend, whatever, even needing a resource, like I need a good roofer. I need somebody who can help me with a foundation. I need a good painter. And you know what I get a lot of? Do you have a good housekeeper? Which I do. And so I'm like, sure, let me give you her name. And Juliana's been very happy with me because I've given her a lot of business. That's the kind of stuff that you want to be the first person that they think of when they have any of those needs. I had a brilliant marketer say this to me, and I've never forgotten it. He said, you want to scratch an itch. When somebody has an itch, you want to be the person that scratches it. And that happens in multiple ways. One of the ways is it's passive. You are front of mind. So it's the idea of nobody's doing business right now. The average, and it actually reduced in this past year, the average person usually sells their home every 9 to 10 years. And just this last year, it dropped. Now it's every 8 to 9 years, and which is actually significant. It's really significant. But because, like, if you may be talking to somebody in year 4, they're going, okay, why are you talking to me about real estate? And again, that's why you talk about other things, because you want to just deepen that relationship. But when they get to that point of, oh, we want to put Jonathan in another school district, so we need to move. Oh, we just found out we're going to have another baby. We want a bigger house. Oh, any of these things that can happen, you want to be that person that, like, oh, now they have a need. So you're going to scratch that itch. You're going to be the one they go to be like, oh, I'm going to call Renee. I'm going to call Andrew. I'm going to contact them because they're the first person I think of. That's what you're trying to do on the marketing side. Prospecting as well, obviously, but prospecting, it does that, but also sometimes prospecting, they have that itch right then and there. So that's when also it can sometimes be more immediate, because you're contacting them and they're like, oh my God, how did you know we were actually going to whatever? And so then you're scratching that itch right in that moment. But that's the thing that you want, is you want to be that person that meets that need. And the reason why I say scratch the itch, because you'll hear in a lot of other marketing stuff about meeting the need, front of mind and that kind of stuff. But when I heard scratching the itch, I went, oh my gosh, yeah. Because also there's that whole thing with it too, of like, I need help. Just like, let's say you have that a mosquito bite or something, and you're like, as soon as you do that, you're like, oh my God, thank you, that relief. That's the person you want to be. Let me contact Michelle, because she's going to take care of this, and it's going to be so much better. So that's what we're talking about here today. Okay. And I want you to understand that part of the marketing side of things is anything that puts you out there. So you want to be the person that it can be in social media, it could be newsletters. There's the traditional stuff, but social media has exploded in so many ways. It's like, well, how can you leverage that? And let's face it, social media is free. Email is free. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we talk about. Marketing can be money intensive, but it doesn't necessarily have to be money intensive. And another reason why I love teaching this subject is when I started in this business, I was a dual career agent, and I was keeping up my old career, my old business going, because I had now a husband, but I had a husband that I had to support, because at the time he was getting his career started. And we had 2 dogs to support, and I support my mom. And we also had car payments. We had all these other things going on. And so money was one of those things, like he and I had a talk, and I'm like, I am not, I'm going to have a savings, but we cannot blow this all on one marketing campaign. I need to really be stingy about this and be very effective in it. And in fact, we even have an agreement that anything over $500, we have to ask the other person about. So that even, keeps that to this day, that really helps. But all that being said is the money intensive part, it can be part of it, but it doesn't have to be part of it. So I don't want you to think that when you see some of the fancy stuff out there, that doesn't. And by the way, I have shown up to listing appointments with fancy crap and fancy this, and people half the time, they don't even pay attention to it. Now there's times where you use that and you may need to spend the money. I have senior communities that I'm dealing with in Westwood, and they want me to have my marketing materials there. So I have really good printers here at home. I paid a lot of money for them and I have really good printers at home. I am not printing stuff off my printer and like, oh, here's your presentation materials, for that thing. No, I'm having, and our office uses what's called forward marketing. They're part of our group of real estate offices, and they put together a listing presentation for me, and they're going to professionally have it printed and bound, because that place deserves a high-end, sort of marketing thing. So yes, that's going to cost me some money, granted, but other things don't have to cost me money. And it depends on the situation. So let's dive into that a little bit more. Any questions? I am also on a caffeine high. So if I go too fast, please let me know. Any questions so far? Okay. So here's all the stuff. And yeah, let me go ahead and read all this. No, we're not going to do that. It says our time is too valuable. But I want you to understand that when you look in this, it has the marketing side of it. And here's all the different things and ways that you can market. And in the middle is the idea of these are both of the things. So the prospecting, if you look at this, that's all stuff that you're going to actively do. It's a kind of thing like you may call people, whether it's somebody whether it's an expired, you may call someone. You may be door knocking, you may be doing any of those sort of things. And that could be your prospecting part. I actually take issue, I shouldn't say take issue. I think door knocking should be in the middle, because I see door knocking as both. Because if you have something with you and you're leaving it with them, then one, you've created that, it is prospecting because you're creating that relationship, but then at the same time, you leave something with them, and that could be maybe front of mind. True story, one of the guys in our office, he kept canvassing a neighborhood, and he kept dropping his stuff off. And the owner passed away, and the kids were going through the mother's materials. They came across his flyer and his business card, and they said, oh, she must have known Chuck. Let's give Chuck a call. And Chuck sold the house. So that's where it's like, that was passive marketing, sort of thing. So I think it goes into both. When you're looking at, in the both area, stuff like events, open houses, people, yes, you're talking to them, but then you have materials to hand out, when you have seminars. And right now, it used to be, seminars used to be, oh, hold a nice event and that kind of stuff. And it used to be more costly. Now people are so used to Zoom. If it was before the pandemic and people are like, oh, I want to do an online thing. I'm like, oh, well, good luck, sister, because that doesn't get you much traction. Now it's just the opposite. Now, in fact, if there's events that people like, if it's a seminar and people are like, oh, it's in person. I'm like, are you serious? I have to go to the LAX Marriott at 9 a.m. in the morning and fight traffic. Why isn't this thing at least a hybrid and I can log in on Zoom? I've got too much to do. And honestly, that's the way we're all thinking now. So I think the seminars actually have more traction now than they did before the pandemic. And then you could do little hooks and, for that. I mean, it's always good if you just have, oh, here's a seminar, blah, blah, blah. If you do something like, hey, I have a seminar. And by the way, everybody who attends a seminar at the end, we're going to have a drawing for a $50 Starbucks card, and that kind of thing. So that costs you a little bit of money, but then you tend to get more people to, come to your event, sort of thing. Client appreciation days. That's one that can be a little bit costly, depending on what you do and also how much you scale it. Are you showing a full-blown dinner to people, or are you hosting a cocktail hour? Are you hosting a cash bar cocktail hour? It could be any of those things you might be doing. You might be doing, oh, it's a one ticket, you get one free drink cocktail hour. And so it's not as costly. And then it's just the idea that, oh, you're doing something like that for people. And that's also the sort of thing, the client appreciation events, you can bring other vendors in and help share the costs, you know, because it gives them exposure too. You have a preferred lender that you like to work with. You have, you know, somebody like that. You can even bring somebody in who may not be real estate related. There was a woman on the call the other day, Regina Clark, she was in our office meeting, and she specializes in like cleaning up homes, organizing, doing estate sales, all of that sort of thing. Oh, well, let's do an event together because we both have a symbiotic relationship, and then we both share the cost and we both have the exposure for that. By the way, that's another one where you take photos and you pimp that thing out to social media. You do it in your newsletter, you do it in all of that sort of thing where people see that, and that's part of that marketing. You know, if you can, don't let one event be a one event appearance. Use it in multiple ways to do it, sort of thing. Even doing a retro thing. Hey, remember last year we did this event, or last year we put on this seminar? You know, that was a great time, blah, blah, blah. If you need to contact me, there you go, sister. That's the way to do it. So those are some of the things you can do. Now, I usually start off saying Ignite, that Ignite was written for the entire nation, and it was written for all demographics and for all price points and for all realtors. Now, the factors that come into play are, one, all our demographics are not equal across the nation. So there's some differences here than, let's say, in Montana. Everybody has a different style. So like for me, I'm a referral networking type agent, but Laura Anderson in our office, who's very successful, she's a farming agent. So that's what she does. My buddy, when I first got in the business, and he and are dear friends to this day, he can't stand networking and doing that kind of business. So for him, he is literally on the phone 3 to 4 hours a day calling expireds, and that's how he generates business. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so not me. But all that to say, we all have a different approach to business. So when Keller Williams is putting all this together, they're having to kind of make it a blanket. So don't think every one of these things is going to fit you or fit your demographic. You need to make sure it fits where it needs to go. I think one thing that's funny in there is it says yellow pages. Yeah, when was the last time you saw yellow pages? So that's some of the things that adjust it as needed, you know, sort of idea. And by the way, the marketing part on the newspapers, one little tip here is you can do a press announcement and send it to different newspapers, and they'll put it in. And what's the benefit of that? Well, now you're searchable. Now you're searchable outside of other things. And when they do, and you can put in your press announcement, hey, you are a new agent serving this area. This is your specialty. This is your background. This is your focus, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. What if you got an award? What if you got a certificate? I also should be, you know, spanking myself because I haven't done that a whole lot myself. I did it when I first got in the business and I haven't kept up with it. But that's the kind of thing that lets you even become more searchable. And it's free, people. That's free. So you can do that sort of thing as well. But I just want to put out there, so I'm not going to go through this whole list because some of this may fit you, some of it may not, and some of it you're like, why is that even there? Well, then that probably tells you it's not appropriate for what you want to do. There's good marketing versus bad marketing. And this is where I go off script and I start talking about where I kind of came from a marketing background. So that's the reason why I also like doing a lot of this stuff. Good marketing and bad marketing. You want to stand out and you don't want to necessarily imitate. I think in our industry, do you want to waste a lot of money? Buy a stupid pin with your name on it and hand it out. Okay, first, I'm picky on my pins. I actually like the little skinny pins that are the micro point that almost cuts paper as I write it. So when I have any other pin, I'm like, I'm not going to use this. Okay, that's part of the problem. Another thing is that the better pins are much more costly. And you really want to be spending that money on pins that people aren't going to be paying that much attention to. Because I have tons of pins. If you look on my desk, I actually, because I'm the vice president of the shelter for victims of domestic violence. And I am literally at times once a year giving them like, here's a bunch of free pins I got because I'm not going to use them. And in this industry, I get so many different free things. I'm like, here, give them to somebody who's going to use them. And so it's wasted money. You know, the other thing is notepads. I'm sorry. I think notepads are a waste of money. You know, it's like, well, yeah, but your name is on there. I've got realtor notepads on my desk right now. It doesn't mean it's effective. It means they gave me a free notepad and I'm just taking notes on it. That's all it means. So I don't think that's as effective. Now, what about if it came to like a magnet? Oh, that starts to change. And I even have an example. Oh, I have an example. Give me like 10 seconds. It's literally a website called magnets.com. And I ordered this. I'm into wine. If anybody starts to get to know me, you know, like, oh, we're very much into wine. My husband and I, we got married a month ago at a winery. So that tells you something. But I ordered this and it's a little magnet on the back, see? And then magnet there, and it's wine pairings. And then it has all the different pairings. So this is one of those cool things that somebody can put on their fridge. And then it's like, oh, but it's useful. My information is right on the top. And the thing that's smart about this is that if you tear off the magnet part, that's my information. So don't think on this one like, oh, I'm going to tear off Rob's info and then just keep it on the fridge. Nope. You have to have me on the fridge in order for this to be hanging from the fridge or one of your other stainless steel appliances. But that's the kind of thing that, okay, this did cost a little bit of money, but I'm like, this is different. This is effective. Now, how did I find out about this? I went to an open house and there was another realtor who had this. And that was when I'm like, I have not seen that before. And it's relevant and people will use it. So I was like, okay, and it got me, I noticed it. So I'm like, oh, if I'm noticing it, bingo, I'm gonna use this. So that's one of those ones that I was like, okay, that is effective marketing. Another one is, oh, good. I'm glad you love that, Nara. I got more kidding. I got more coming. My thing on that is, do you want to stand out or do you want to imitate? If you imitate, you're going to blend in like everybody else. You know, you're like and this is no slam on anybody's car, but you're like the white Honda Accord at Disneyland. There's hundreds of them there. And so you're not going to stand out. And even last night when we went to go get our car, I joked around with Jamal, my husband. I said, oh, you can tell our car because we have the reindeer antenna, you know, on it right now, the reindeer horns, because I have it dressed up for Christmas. So it stood out. You know, that's the thing. You want to stand out. You want to be front of mind. You don't want to blend in. So when you're doing your marketing, keep that in mind. There's good design and then there's bad design. Good design is less is more. Look at Apple products. I always bring up Apple products. When you look, there's a lot of white space on Apple's marketing. And there's a reason for white space because it's effective, because it draws your eyes in on what needs to be there. If you look at Microsoft's marketing, especially back from the 90s, oh my God, it was hideous because you could tell the designers were engineers. They wanted to put everything about their product on the outside. It works with these computers. It works with these computers. It works with this. It needs this much RAM. It needs this much this. It needs this much space. Okay, you look at all that. I'm like, oh my God, that's so busy. And it's not appealing. When all of a sudden you looked at Apple's computer and it was like MacBook Pro. Oh, that's so pretty. And you're drawn to it. I mean, that was Apple's approach. You're drawn because it's simple. Less is more. And it also communicates to somebody, this is what you need to focus on. This is the most important thing. Not all this other stuff going around it. That is the most important thing. Marilyn Monroe had a saying that before she would go out, she would spin around in the mirror and look at herself. And if anything drew too much attention, she would take it off because she wanted the focus to be on her, not on her accessories. So it's the same idea. On marketing, you want to make sure what you're communicating, what is in your design really is what stands out. And that is what's being communicated. And listen, I come from a geeky background. So, and a design background. So when I designed my own business cards, I wanted to keep putting more and more crap on it. And I realized it's way too busy. And so that doesn't work. So you want to know what does work? This is my card. I used to have my certifications on there. I realized nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared. So what do I have on there? My dogs. That's what I have on my card. I have my dogs. Yes, I have all my other contact info. I have my legal stuff. I have I have the brokerage in the corner, but I have the dogs on there. Why do you think I do that? Because when I hand it to people, people are like, oh my gosh, they pay attention. How many times have you gotten, and I'm not patting myself on the back here because I have gotten some other people's cards. I'm like, wow, that is impressive. But how many times in this business already, you've gotten people's cards and you're like, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. But you don't go like, oh, wow. Oh, how cute, that sort of thing. I've had people tell me they're going to steal this. I'm like, go ahead. I steal ideas all the time. So, nobody owns the ideas, but I do that all the time. And this was trial and error. This was the sort of thing I'm like, nobody's paying attention to my stuff. So I tried other markets. Nope, nobody's paying attention. Well, let me get rid of all my certifications and just put in senior real estate expert, because that's really the one certification I wanted to focus on. Nobody really cared. I'm like, okay, well, what if I do the dogs? People started noticing. It was like, wow. Now, I also have an ID printer at home. So on top of that, I tend to, and it depends on who I'm giving it to, because this is when you have to judge the marketing costs, but I do have my paper cards and I do give that away. But I do have plastic cards that I print with my ID printer. That's what this card is. It actually is printed off my ID printer. But the idea that it's printed on plastic, I get people that, in fact, a couple of you last night joked around. They're like, oh my God, I can actually jimmy the lock on my apartment with this thing. I'm like, yeah, you kind of could, because it's a plastic card. But people notice that. And it's even indirect marketing. It's like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, I haven't had that before. Just the idea that it's a plastic card. Now, before it had the dogs, it was like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's a cute trick. And it went so far. I put the dogs on it and I sucked people in. And in fact, 2 days ago, I was at a luncheon and we were going around the table and we were, it was for a chamber, and I handed out my business cards. And everybody handed out their business cards, by the way. And I'm like, and I'm paying attention to theirs. So I'm like, okay, great. I handed out mine. It was like, oh my God, your dogs are so cute. I love their name. All of a sudden it became about my dogs. Now, those people are not ready to buy or sell real estate in that moment. So that is the most effective thing I can do in that moment, is start to build those relationships, because they're not ready. I'm not scratching an itch right then, but I want to be there when they need that itch scratch. So we started talking about the dogs. Then we started talking about their business. I showed interest in them. I asked, what do they do? We started talking about the charity work that they were involved in, the charity work I'm involved in. We started talking about all those things. Right after this, in fact, right at the table, I had a picture of the dogs ready to go in their Christmas outfits. Yes, I dress them up. I pimp them out for every season. I had them in their Christmas outfits, and I emailed one of the girls in the Christmas outfit. Immediately she goes, oh my God, that is so cute. Thank you so much. I pimped it out even more. I've got an app on my phone that's called My Talking Pet, and it'll work on anything. You can do it to a car, you can do it to a person, but it started off with pets. So of course I do it to my dogs all the time. And I took their Christmas picture and I started singing to them Merry Christmas, and I recorded it. I then emailed it to, and I made it personal. One was to Val and the other one was to Lucy, the two ladies that I had met. I emailed both of them that. I got back, you made my day. We are now becoming Nalani and Kona fans at the office. I'm like, oh, let me take it one more. I went ahead and I printed out, and I joked around. I said, okay, well, I got more stuff coming your way. Again, I have this ID printer. So I printed out a picture of them on the beach, and it said, Val, Nalani and Kona are sending you sunny smiles today. That went in a Christmas card. And the Christmas card I printed on my printers here at home, and it has a picture of them in their Christmas outfits. And on the inside, it says, Nalani and Kona are wishing you a Merry Christmas. And by the way, I wasn't sure, of course it would be holidays instead. You make it to whoever it is. But then, and printed at the bottom of that card is my real estate information too. It's automatically at the bottom. That went out in the mail that same day. So they're going to get that probably Monday at their office. Who do you think they're going to remember if anybody in that office right now needs anything real estate related? If they don't have anybody else, pretty sure I'll be front of mind. And that was my target. And at the same time, I'm not being shallow. It's like, no, I like these people. We got to know each other. I'm just trying to deepen that relationship. And these are avenues in marketing in which I can do that. By the way, yes, if you want to print plastic cards, it will cost some money. But if you want to print your business cards and you have a cat on it or something, that's up to you. But you can do it through a regular printer. But the idea, like, hey, that My Talking Pet thing, it's a $30 subscription every year, and you can use it as much as you want. And trust me, I use that all the time. And so when it comes up for the yearly renewal, I'm like, oh yeah, you better believe it, sunshine. That's going to go in the thing. You also can do something that is appropriate. So think of, they have events on here. Some of the senior communities do what's called a yappy hour. And of course, I automatically fell in love with that idea, because it's the idea that all the vendors who tend to be associated with the community bring their dogs. And so they have it in the courtyard. And then that way the people in the community get to be around dogs who like to be around dogs. And it just is a great time. And then it's marketing amongst one another. And it's a great theme. So the idea of saying, if you were to do an event and say, hey, we're going to have, coffee and croissants at blah, 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 why don't you come on by? Yeah, maybe, and then what ends up happening, you're busy. I got to get my car washed. I've got this to do. I kind of don't have time. You make it a fun event like that, totally different experience. There's a senior community in my city called Oakmont, and they did every once in a while, once a month, Wine Wednesday. And this was before the lockdown. And so they would just have a day where they hosted, and you would come and they'd have wine. And then the vendors would bring door prizes. And so they would get exposure at the event. That was some of the marketing. But then for them, pretty much it was hosting the event and paying for the wine. And that's what they did. But because instead of it was like Relax Wednesday, okay, Wine Wednesday, that was effective. So that's the idea. You do like a theme, you do something like that. Also, if you want to do cheap marketing, go to Dollar Tree, buy their milk bones, buy the little plastic bags, wrap it up, put your business card on that, and go to a dog park, and then just start passing it out. Now, can you appropriate that and use it for something else? Of course you can. I'm just using that as an example. Maury Leitner in our office, he did that, and he got a lot of great feedback and a lot of great contacts, because what it did is it started creating conversations. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, where do you specialize in real estate? Well, what about this? Oh, look, your dogs are so cute. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, your dogs are peeing on my shoe. Okay, well, whatever. I mean, that's the kind of thing where, but it created that conversation, and it's more than just being at a dog park, handing out your business card. Nobody's going to care. Thank you for your business card. I don't care. You hand out a dog treat that you got at the Dollar Tree in a little baggie, and it's like, oh, thank you so much. And then starts a conversation. That's the part where you want it to be appropriate. You're not going to go to, oh, I'm trying to think of an example. You're not going to go to an elementary school and pass those out to the kids. Yeah, probably not appropriate. In fact, the principal probably not happy with you. So you want to make something appropriate to what you're doing. You also want to make sure that your marketing is appropriate to the target audience. There's an agent in our office, Mary Woodward. She specializes in Hancock Park, which is where our office is centered. Now, Hancock Park tends to be a higher end area. She does not have a magnet on the side of her car saying Mary Woodward Realtor. Her clientele would look at that if she's driving up in her car and like, that's kind of tacky for this area. And it is. So that's the kind of thing you want to make sure your marketing is appropriate to whomever you're serving, and so I want that to be noted, because you'll see like some things out there. Oh, should I do this? Because I saw this person doing that. Again, do you want to imitate? Do you want to stand out? And also, when you're standing out, are you standing out in the way you want to be standing out? And having a magnet in Hancock Park, not going to be standing out in a good way. Having a magnet with your choice of wine on it, that's a different story. As long as it's not on your car. You also want to make sure your marketing is effective and not just entertaining. And so, like I try when I do my postings on social media, when I do other things, I want it where people are interested, they like to interact, blah, 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 but that it doesn't take them off the site of real estate. That's what I want them to associate with me. There's a famous commercial that took place in the 70s, and it always showed these people, and they were like, oh my God, I can't believe I ate the whole thing, and they're going on and on and on, and like da-da-da. And everybody thought that the commercial was for pasta sauce, because it was always this Italian sort of approach. It was actually for Rolaids, for stomach relief for acid. And it was I mean, literally the commercial won an award because it was so effective, but it was effective for the wrong product and nobody associated it with the product they were trying to purport. So just make sure what you're doing for marketing, and I get caught up in this because I tend to be sometimes creative and I'm like, oh, I can do that. What about this and this and this? And I always have to ask myself, but is this going to be achieving what I wanted to achieve? And if it's not, then I don't want to do it. There's going to be, and part of that is, and the last part before we move on, is you want to make sure it's a good return on investment. And I can tell you an example of that is right now I belong to two chambers. I belong to the Whittier Chamber. I belong to the Irwindale Chamber. And I'm going to be blunt honest. The Whittier Chamber, you only need to belong to it for a year and then you don't have to renew. Because by that time you meet everybody pretty much in there if you're really active that you need to meet. And chamber people in Whittier are not loyal to other chamber people in Whittier. So being part of the chamber doesn't do any good. And I mean, I'm an ambassador. I'm one of those people up front. I mean, people know who I am in the chamber. I have not gotten any deals out of that chamber. I joined the Irwindale Chamber less than a year ago, and I discovered those people are very loyal to people who are active within the chamber. So that's one, what's my return on investment? And with the Irwindale, definitely that's worth the money. And then when I've had people asking from other businesses, hey, you're involved in different chambers, what do you think? Well, let me tell you what I think. And if you want the better bang for your buck, that's the chamber you want to be in. Now, it ranges on chambers and organizations and blah, blah, blah. But the principle is you want a return on investment, your ROI. You want to make sure the money, the time, the things you're putting in is going to have a return on investment. And if it doesn't, that's the other part you need to kind of pay attention to. Okay, so how do you know where the customer is and how do you meet them there? That's a really nice way of putting scratching the itch. That's what it's doing. That's why I like the term scratching the itch, because that's what it is. You're the solution resource. How do you communicate your value proposition? And that's one too I would highlight. How do you communicate your value proposition? You're not always doing it. You're always wanting to be front of mind, but you want to make sure that woven in there are the things that you want communicated. So is it the idea like, hey, look, you can show off properties. Oh, you know how to market properties. You can, oh, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? You're associating yourself with the things that put you in the area that you want to be in their mind when it comes to real estate and when it comes to the kind of clientele that you want to work with. How can you come away from a contribution in a meaningful way? What you're wanting them to, what you want to do is you want people to think like, well, why would I use Andrew? Why would I use that person? And so your marketing reflects that. Okay, this is why. This is the reason why. Like if you have a great resource, like a buying guide and a selling guide or something like that, then that's the kind of thing where like, by the way, I have these guides available. And by the way, I do subscribe to this service where every quarter I get a brand new buying guide or selling guide, and it reflects the current market that we're dealing with. So, you know, right now we're in a seller's market, so it reflects that market. It has current stats and blah, 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 all in it. When I get those guides, a lot of times I'll post them to social media. Now, does it mean, and I'll also put them in my newsletter. Does it mean that I get a lot of people asking me about, asking me for those guides? Not all the time, but what does it do? It puts it in their mind that I'm the person who has these guides. I'm the person who has these resources. So even if I never get a response from that, I'm putting in their mind, I'm the one who has this information. And when they need it, they can come to me. That's what you're trying to market. And so that's that meaningful way. How important do you think branding and aesthetics are? And how do you achieve it? Okay, less is more. Don't copy what other people are doing, you know, sort of thing. And consistency, I think, is key, depending on what it is. And you want all your stuff to reflect who you are. Yes, I totally get that. I will say there's some caveats to that. If you have a listing presentation that's spectacular, and then you have a buyer's consult that also looks great, but they have a totally different style, you're not going to have a client most likely seeing both of them at the same time. So they're not going to compare and contrast like, wow, these look totally different. So there's some things that you have a little bit of, I mean, keep that in mind. Not everything has to be a certain way, but let's say you use a certain font, a certain color, a certain whatever in your marketing, then keep that consistent. Don't make, your like I have a particular blue that I happen to love. So I use that blue in all my marketing. Okay, great. I make sure that all my sheets I hand out has a blue bar with the same color. I use the same font. I make sure that that stuff is consistent. So it's not like, oh my God, everything's hodgepodge. No. I try and make sure that kind of stuff is consistent. However, my listing presentation, it's very simple. It's a completely different style, but it's also like a book. So it doesn't look like it doesn't fit in with all my other materials. How should you follow up with the leads generated from your marketing? It depends on how you got them. It depends. Is your marketing where you were farming? Does it, is it a guide you gave them? Is it blah, blah, blah? One of the best things to do though, is you ask questions. Remember, the business is not about you, it's about your clients, which is a huge relief if you're a new agent, because that means you don't have to bullshit your way and try and impress people. You ask them questions. I had somebody ask me this just the other day. They're like, I'm really nervous. I'm really nervous. I go, whoa, pull back. It's not about you. It's about them. So ask them the 5 key questions. And it may not be all 5, but what you want them open-ended, what, who, when, where, why, and how. So what you want to do is, okay, let's say you gave them a buyer's guide. Did you have any, and if you ask like, did you have any questions? What questions is a better way of doing it, by the way. What questions do you have from the buying guide? Well, I didn't get a chance to read it. No problem. What questions do you have? And maybe we can talk about those now. When were you thinking of making a decision? When would you have a chance for us to go over some of your questions that on the seller's guide, on the buyer's guide, on whatever? When would be, you give them a wine magnet. When could we get together and talk to coffee and share some wine stories? All of that kind of stuff can be some of the follow-up to your marketing. And that's the kind of thing where it allows your marketing to create that deeper level. Because just marketing alone, technically, could it get you a deal? Yes, but your chances are really low. I'm not saying it won't happen, because every once in a while it will, but your business is not going to be based on that. That's going to be like gravy. What you want to do though, is you want to make your marketing the part of your business that gets you into that relationship with that person, that lets you deepen that relationship, that lets you meet their needs, that lets you scratch their itches, because you're asking questions. You're asking questions about them. So how do you follow up? You ask them questions. You ask about how does it apply to them? Remember, people like things to be clear, precise. The brain loves clarity. So keep it simple. That's one of the key things. Okay, what time do we got? Oh my God, yes. Okay, so we have enough time. So I'm going to go over some bad marketing, and then I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I personally do. So there's different, and by the way, you can use Command, which is part of the KW system. Command has got their own design center. There's pros and cons to it, and because I come from a graphic design background, so from a graphic designer, I can tell you there's pros and cons. The pros are you have these great templates that you plug in your information and it generates it for you. Yay. That is great. Another pro is the idea that a lot of people don't know this, but you can Google images, but does that mean you're allowed to use the images in your business? Oh, not necessarily, sunshine. Well, when you work with something like Command, those images are already licensed. So you don't have to worry about that sort of thing. You can already pimp that stuff out. In fact, there's sometimes I've gone onto Command and I pulled an image off, and then I use it in my own graphic design stuff. But I know, well, that was licensed already by KW, so I'm good. I don't have to worry about that. So that's one of those things. The thing that may be a challenge is these are templates. And so you're limited on what you can do. You can't, like for me, I am so used to, oh, I can move that a little. I can move that. I can do that. And I can't do it in Command. So understand that this does not give you the professional high end, but it does also let you do something quick and dirty. And if you need to do something like that, which I do many times, I will dive into something like this as a template. Boom, 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 I'm done. I'm out. Good. Because again, it doesn't, and I tend to be a perfectionist on my designs. And I had to tell myself when I first started doing real estate, what is my target and what is my return on investment? If I can do something in here and it takes me literally 5 minutes and I can produce something, whereas something is going to take me 45 minutes in Adobe InDesign, I need to do it on here because my return on investment, if it's going to be the same result, I need to value my time. So that's some of the stuff I want you to pay attention to. So we're going to look at some of the designs. Give me your feedback on this. What's good? What's bad? Now, first, give me your feedback, and then I'm going to go into some of the things that I want us to notice.
For me, I have, sorry, go ahead.
It's dark. It looks a little messy in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's a weird angle.
Yes. I've had some people say, are we in a house, apartment, or is it a meeting hall?
I also have a design background and it's just like messy to me. There's too much going on.
Yeah, too much.
Like there's brick and then mosaics, and then you can't even see what realty group they're in.
Oh my God,
they're
yes.
coming off the page.
Okay, that's something that okay. Yes, you've hit a number of the things that I love when people pick up
And
on.
the font. I hate the font.
Oh my God, yes. Okay. One thing I have a problem with, and some people love to use script fonts for your logos, they suck. Okay. I'm just going to be honest, because when you do that kind of stuff, when you shrink them and make them, if you make them big, yay. But when you shrink them, you can't read them. And also, what if you start using that font on everything? Oh, you have an open house sign and you use that font. And we have an agent in her office that does that and drives me crazy because she'll have her logo on it and you're driving by and I'm like, I don't know who you are. Because it's all too busy. It's not simple. I don't know who it is, and it's not scalable. When you look at your marketing stuff, if you're looking at logos, you want it to be scalable. You also want it to communicate. What do you communicate? There, I can't even tell, like it looks like it's a VK inside that crown, but that first letter, I don't know what it is. And you're right, I don't know. And I am not so invested in this. I'm gonna research what that is. You gotta also remember who you're marketing to. Are they going to research who you are or what this is about? If they have to, they're not going to do it. So yeah. Another one is you're invited. What am I invited to? I don't know what I'm invited. Is this an open house? Is this, you know, a little soiree? I don't know what I'm invited to. You know, I have no idea. Also, you know, there's, you guys pointed out some of the other things. I think that the photo's terrible. I think that it was like a matter of staging. I don't know if that's a front door, if that's a side door. There's too many unknowns in this. And that's one of the other things to look at, you know, this is like, okay, again, what are you communicating? Okay, so.
Are they supposed to put their DREs?
I'm sorry?
Are they supposed to put their DRE number on there?
No, they might at the bottom there, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Now, mind you, by the way, the guidelines we have to follow for California, not every state is different. So like we're required to do our BRE number, but in some states they may not be. Okay, so tell me what you think of this one.
Awful.
It's sort of unclear like what the property actually is, I think.
People bring that up all the time. Like, okay, I'm looking at a sky view.
I don't like that giant circle that's covering the image. Like, why?
And the map on the left. It
Yeah.
just looks.
Why is it there?
Yeah.
You know, some of the things that people point out on this, and things are heating up. What is telling you what's heating up in here?
Nothing.
You know, in fact, I'm like, it looks pretty green to me. I think the Hartley Combs, you know, logo, it's like, it, you know, to me, I'm like, if you put Hartley cookies, I think the logo is more appropriate. You know, it just does not communicate. In our, now maybe in their demographic it does, but in our demographic, so I don't want to slam these people, but in our demographic, I think that looks hokey. You know, it kind of looks like for real estate, it looks a little hokey. Again, if you're a bakery, different story. One of the, you know, things that at the bottom people have pointed out, why did they keep in there average days on market NA? Okay, you know, that doesn't help me. And there's no call to action. You're not scratching an itch with this. Oh, wow, things are heating up. Okay. I mean, you could surmise, oh, it's real estate. I guess the market's hot. Why do I care? So, yeah. Okay.
So those kind of like things are heating up, like those catchphrases, you can use that, but try to make it so it's like directional towards something, like what's heating up in terms of that. Like you can use that, let's say that, but
Do a
I hear what
question.
you're saying.
Because
Right.
and that was brilliant, Renee. One of the things in marketing, when you're doing a question, it makes people answer it. So if you just make a statement, yeah, okay, fine. But, you know, if you, are things heating up? You know, would you like to see what's heating? Well, actually that's yes or no. Come see what's heating up in Gem Heights, you know, and then let's say you have an open house day, you know, you could do that. How is the market heating up? You know, any of those things that would call to action, would scratch an itch, would make people think and make them answer. That's what's going to make the difference. You know, you want people to know that. There's also a little bit, but you got to be careful using it. FOMO, fear of missing out. When you do a call to action, if you can phrase it in a way where people feel like they're going to be missing out, that's also really effective too. But you just want to temper that, you know, where it's like, you know, are you, you know, do you want to be a loser not buying a home? You know, okay, that one's, you know, that's an extreme, but still, you know, you want to just temper that and make sure you word it to where it's effective. And one thing I'll say too, whenever, if you want to bounce these ideas, bounce them off other realtors. Yes, that really helps. Bounce them off non-realtors, people who are not in our industry. Because one of the things is that it's so used to us, and we also all want to be positive. You know, Michelle, she bounces an idea off me. It's like, oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. But I'm a realtor. And I always have to keep in my mind, I have all of this other knowledge and all of this other perspective in my mind. She's not going to help me buy or sell a home. Okay, that's not going to happen. She needs to go to the person who's not a realtor, and how are they going to react to it? How are they going to respond? That's what you want to keep in mind. That's who you're marketing to. Okay, what about this one here?
The curb appeal on the first one's horrible. I wouldn't use that as like the picture.
Yes. Totally agree.
Just looks confusing.
Too much
Yeah,
white
the
space.
curve.
The vacant lot, I feel like there needs to be some sort of context for it, so you know like what you're dealing with, opposed to that could just be like anywhere.
Right. That's brought up all the time, Andrew. Where is it? And some people have even brought up, why is it there? If people are shopping from homes, are they also going to be shopping for a vacant lot?
True.
And this is from a realtor's perspective. Oh, look, all the listings I have. That's a realtor's perspective, but that's not the person's perspective.
Do you think that having several properties just like that up there is kind of too much for the brain to process in terms, do you know what I mean?
Yes, I think so. And I think that's a really good observation there. When you have too much up there, and realtors do this all the time, let me show you all this stuff. And what happens when you get that? It's like, oh crap. When I first, in my 20s, which was literally decades ago, when I was in my 20s and I was doing design work, and the company I was working for wanted me to design the logo. I made the mistake, because I was so green at the time, I gave them 10 options. Way too many. I found out the rule of thumb is when you're a designer, you give people 3 choices, and by default, you know one of those choices suck. So you automatically give that client the ability to say, nope, I don't want that one. And then it leaves them between 2. And then they get to choose between 2. You keep it simple. You let the brain process what it needs to process. So here, you're exactly right, Renee. I think this would be effective if you got rid of the just listed, have the 2 on each side, and put it's all in the details. Do a call to action in the middle. Which one would you choose? You know, that all of a sudden now people are like, oh, well, let me look at both of them. You know, it kind of, it brings that in a little bit more. If you were to do this on social media, you'll get responses. If you put this in social media the way it is, oh, fine, they did a posting. You put in the middle of this, which one would you choose? People are going to do their opinion. That's one thing I've discovered, and I'm going to show you in a second, very effective on my social media, is people want to interact. People want to share their opinions. So that's something that really works well. A few other things on this. The one on Holyoke Avenue, that yard may not be that green. But my listings, I've had a yard that's looked like the one on Rose Lane, and I've retouched the hell out of the lawn, and I've made it look that green. Let me tell you, when it comes to marketing homes, if it's something that's significant and permanent, you're not allowed to touch it. So if you have telephone lines that's in your view when you take a picture, those stay in there, because that is something permanent you can't get rid of. I had a home I listed in Downey, and literally we had telephone lines running next to us. So I made sure every photo was cropped so it didn't show the telephone lines, so you weren't drawn to it. But I also wasn't retouching it out to make sure, like, oh yeah, that's no problem, sort of thing. But you got to make sure. But when it comes to stuff like the grass and so on, you can't guarantee grass. It's one of those things that it's in motion. So yes, I retouched the hell out of the lawns and make them look green. I had one that looked like hell, and people told me online, like, oh my God, that house is beautiful, and look how stunning the lawn is. I'm like, yeah, after a few months of watering, it'll look that way. But that's some of the things you can do. Another trick you can do on the other one, on Rose Lane, you hose down the driveway. Hosing down cement driveways gives it a stunning look. And I've done that for a couple of my listings, and it's very effective. So, but it is in the marketing there. It is in the marketing. One thing that people point out is Armstrong and Company. Is that bathroom cleaner? You don't know what it is. You have no idea what Armstrong and Company is. And their logo, I guess that's supposed to be an A, and they made it look like a house, but you're reaching. And when you have to reach like that, okay, I'm so glad you designed your own logo, but it sucks. So you need a better one, okay? That's just not a good logo. In fact, some of the cutesy stuff like that isn't really as effective. So if you look at in our office, you'll notice a lot of people's logos are simple. It'll have their name, it'll have something else. It's what will communicate what you want to communicate. And if you notice too, another pet peeve of mine is when people use faded fonts or skinny fonts, just like the script fonts or super thin lines. When you reduce it on there, I think it says real estate group underneath, but I can't tell. And again, I'm not invested in this. So am I really going to look and see what that means? Armstrong and Company, I think it's a bathroom cleaner. I guess they clean these homes. I don't know. I mean, seriously, that's what can come about. So I want to make sure that you understand that. And by the way, all of these were done in Command. And Command cannot tell you what good marketing and good design is going to be. That's something you have to answer, and answer for your demographic too. What if you're wanting to go to all investors? You have something that you have an investor list and you're creating a postcard. Well, then probably the 2 listings on each side of the homes isn't going to be effective. But you've got 4 vacant lots. Maybe then you want to put the vacant lot in there instead and highlight it because it's going to an investor. Who is your target? That's what you're wanting to market to. Now, as we wrap up, marketing, I teach a whole separate class on marketing sometimes. So I just want to point out that this can go on and on and on. And you can, trust me, you can ask my husband. I can also go on and on and on. So let's not do that. Let me tell you some things that have worked very well. First, simply, I have return address labels. And my return address labels, I had a logo designed, and you can see, and it just has my logo on there. and I have right on there. So anything that's professional, I have that on. So why is that marketing? Because when people see and I do handwritten notes all the time. That's part of my lead generation. But I use my label as my return address label, and I handwrite, whoever it's going to. But that's marketing, because by default, they look at the return address. Oh, that's right. Rob's a realtor. Okay. That's why that's there. I have, and different events, I will depend on my side of town in Whittier. Wearing a name badge to events is very common, so people do it all the time. On the west side of town, it depends on the event. Sometimes, like some of the senior events I go to at the communities, people wear name badges. Other events, especially social events, people don't. So, you got to pick and choose how it goes. In fact, a few times I've kind of used that to my advantage. I'm like, oh my God, my name badge is still on. Let me take that off. But I made sure when I walked in the door, it was on. I've kind of done that little thing. But look at my name badge even. I am pimping out the dogs. What's the biggest thing you see on there? My dogs. And it says, Dad to these girls, Realtor Rob. That's why I did that. I'm pimping out the girls, because people have name badges on at these places. Oh, you're with blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're with ServPro. Oh my God, look at your dogs. And I'm having the conversation with people. That's the marketing part of it. I send out a newsletter. I told you about my Christmas card list. This is my newsletter. And by the way, if you notice my newsletter, mainly pictures. It's a lot of pictures, highlights. Of course, I have real estate in there. When you do marketing, when you do social media, you want it to be an 80-20 rule. You want it to be 80% personal, unless it's LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a little different, obviously, but you want it to be 80% personal, 20% real estate, because you want people interested in you, and then you just want to be front of mind. And social marketing is a whole nother topic, but that's basically the rule of thumb when it comes to that. Newsletters and so on. So my Christmas newsletter is the same thing. It's mainly personal and pictures. And why is it mainly pictures? Do I want to have a lot more words in there? Yeah. But people, they tell me all the time, Rob, I love your newsletter. Literally in 2 minutes, I know everything you did. I see all the photos and I'm done. It's not one of those ones that goes on and on and on, single, 4 pages. We get those single typed about your trip to Wyoming and everything you did during your trip. I don't care. I mean, I hate to be that way, but it's busy this time of year. Simple, keep it simple. I use pictures. One of the things that, I just had it. One of the things I pay for that I saw that was brilliant, that cost me just as much as like a pin would cost or something, but so much better. I saw this at, I told you I'm very much involved with the Women and Children's Crisis Shelter, and at their 5K walk, I saw this and I'm like, oh, okay. And there was only one of them left on the United Healthcare stage. And I was kind of like, that's weird. I mean, basically all the other booths, everybody still had their pins and pads and everything. And I'm like, why is this going? So I picked it up and I'm like, oh, okay. And I went like this and I went, oh my God, it's a lint brush. And you put it like that, and it's a portable lint brush. It has a little clip just like that. You do this, you do that. I was like, oh, this is brilliant. And I took it, and then I asked my marketing guy, this costs the same as an average pin. For 500 of these, because that's how many I had to order, I think it cost me $600. So yes, there was some investment in it. But at the same time, I do not give this to everybody I meet. Oh, here, oh, here, oh, here. I don't have a thing of them where people can pick them up. This is a demonstrable thing. So I ordered these 4 years ago, and I still have, I would say at least, I ordered 500. I probably still have at least 350 of them, because I only give them out usually like when we get together for coffee with someone. When I get together at some of these networking events, I'll have 4 or 5 of them with me. I'm like, oh, and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, sometimes I'll purposely have less, like, well, give me your card and I will send one to you. Or we'll get together for coffee and I'll give one to you. Notice the hook there? Notice what I'm doing? Hey, let's get together. Let's deepen that relationship. But this also stands out. That's why I did that. So this was one, yes, I invested some money, but I'm also using it in an effective way. I'm not just, hey, everybody can have one, because then everybody gets one and then you wasted that money. And also it doesn't facilitate that relationship there. Okay, And one of my last things, and the thing I'm a little bit proud of, I do it this time of year. I'm like, okay, what's important to people? You look on their social media, they'll tell you what's important to them, their family, their dogs, all of those sort of things. So what I did last year was, and it's pretty cheap, I bought these. You get, they're $15.99, and I think I got 15 of them, something like that, okay? They're balsa wood, they're little framed ornaments. And what I did is that I would go ahead and I took people's dogs, I put their newborn baby, blah, blah, blah. I would print it out. By the way, if you, and it's easy to do, if you want to print it at Walgreens, just, this is 2.3 inches by 2.3 inches. And literally, I just made a square, popped it, whatever thing they had posted, popped it in there. I'm going to tell you, the second year I'm doing this, you have to keep track of this stuff too, so you don't overdo it. But that's what I did. And then I pasted it in there. Okay, great. It's a cute little ornament, you know, sort of thing. And like, wow, you made it personal. It didn't cost me much. This is what I also did. On the back, this is balsa wood. It is wood. I have an ink stamp that I had made. It's got my name on it. And by the way, this is my second ink stamp. The first one, I have my name and my email address, way too busy because it's a little bit too much going on. And I realized like, okay, it's fine. But when I had this done, that's all it needs to be. I simplified it. I made it easier. And so it's got my name on it and it's got my phone number. But it's an ink. It's not a label. They can't peel it off. So they get this. It's a cute little gift. It didn't cost me a lot. It showed personal interest in them. They hang it on their tree. Guess what, Sunshine? This year, those people who got these last year, they're doing it again. And I'm not having to send it again. It's automatic marketing now for me every single year that I send these out to people, and it lets it explode and it lets it get bigger. The people who,
Rob,
yes,
where did you say you get those little frames?
Amazon.
Oh, Amazon. I'm
Amazon.
sure they have. Yeah, that's a cute idea. Mhm.
And the thing that I had clients that in 2020, they had a kid. And I sent them, and that was in the middle of lockdown. So on Amazon, I ordered, because, you know, you could go directly to their house, and I sent them a little organic, like, you know, baby blanket for right after the bath. And, you know, congratulations. And I sent them a card and blah, blah, blah. And they were like so grateful. And then come around Christmas time, I sent this to them with their newborn baby picture in it and to the grandmother. This past year, I helped them buy a $1.95 million home in Highland Park, and I sold their $1.5 million home. So I'm letting you know, now, you cannot directly say, oh, just because I did this, but this is part of your marketing. This is part of that. And it went personal. I didn't send them a damn postcard with like, oh, look at all the listings in your area. I sent them something personal. This deepened the relationship. So even in your marketing stuff, some of it's going to be generic because of how you're marketing it out. But when you can dig deeper and deepen that relationship, that's what's going to make the difference. And another thing, by the way, you'll notice that I posted this today on my social media. I do these all the time, and we'll end with this one. I do, which one are you? And I give 4 choices. So this time it's which basically of all the holiday movies are you? And I do this, and at the bottom, I've got my contact. I've got all of my brokerage. I've got my number. I've got who I am, you know, I've got the Photoshop photo of me, you know, I have all of that stuff. Now that's because it's this time of year. Normally, when we're not in a certain season, I will do anything having to do with real estate. So like here, I have 4 different types of bathrooms. I've done different styles of homes. I've done different kitchens. I've done different roofs. I've done different doors. Whatever, pick a thing in a house and just keep going and keep going. I've done different floors, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Why do I do that? Because people will go on, and I do it on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and people will post, I'm a D, I'm a C, I'm an A and a D. They'll post all these different things. Now you're getting, and understand social media, this is how it works. When people start posting to yours, your logarithm goes up. So people that are in your friends, or maybe want to be friends, you get suggested more. you get noticed more. Then people will jump, and I've noticed like it really starts to collaborate together. And so I'll have on some of these, I've had 60 people share their opinion because, and basically I'm scratching an itch. People want to share their opinion. Oh, I love that bathroom. Oh, I hate that bathroom. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And on top of it, when you share the real estate stuff, it gives you a reason to talk to them. Oh, I noticed that you tend to really like craftsman homes. Oh, I noticed that you really tend to like a home with a lot of yard, or you like a home that has whatever. It lets you, not on every single one of these, but my big arc in marketing when it comes to which one are you is it gives me a feel of what they like. Because even sometimes when you talk to your clients, they're like, oh, you know what? I only like mid-century modern. And then when you start shopping for homes, it's like, that's a craftsman. Oh, yeah, I know, but I really kind of like it. So when you do this, it kind of gives you that background, but also allows you to have an online conversation that you can segue to, hey, let's get together for coffee. You know, you can do this with directly on there. You can direct message people. You know, you could be like, you have Anne, you have Anne Hathaway as a friend. Yeah, sure I do. But you have Anne Hathaway on there and she goes like, oh, I'm a D. Oh, you know, oh, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Anne, let's get together. You know what? We'll even talk about bathrooms, you know, whatever, you know, that kind of thing. It's the marketing side. That's the part. You want to be front of mind. You want to, and by the way, if you notice, even as I talk, that's a little bit of my marketing. I was loud. I was excited. I was blah, blah, blah. And then I wanted to get your attention and I went low and I draw you in. That's what speakers do. And your marketing is very similar. What do you want people to notice? What do you want your effective message to be? And that's how you craft your marketing. It could cost you nothing, depending on what it is, depending on the venue, depending on the media. It could cost you some money. But no matter what it is, you want it to reach your target. You want to be front of mind. You want when somebody has a real estate need, you're the one they're going to contact. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
That was very thorough. Thank you.
Great. I'm going to sign off because I've got to take my mom to her eye appointment. So I won't have an 83-year-old upset at me. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your participation too.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Bye,
Okay,
guys.
Bye.